The Department of Public Health and Human Services is pleased to bring you Aging Horizons. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, fraud, legal issues, veterans benefits, and caregiving. Aging Horizons is a program dedicated to inform and prepare Montanans on these timely issues, making a difference to you and your loved ones. Here now is today's program host.
Hi folks, today on Aging Horizons we've got some super guests for you. A couple of folks from the Alzheimer's Association of Montana are with us here today to talk about some of the changes that might occur in communication and just life if you find yourself facing down dementia. They have some great resources and lots of hope to bring to the table, so please stay with us.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support.
This is Bill. He just received his new Medicare card and is following some simple rules to protect himself from fraud. He knows to never give out his Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. And this is Nancy. She knows that to detect any problems, she always reads her Medicare summary notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure the billing is correct. Both Bill and Nancy know that anything suspicious can be reported to Montana SMP at 1-800-551-3191.
45 years, 2 packs a day. It's like $80,000. I thought I was just hurting myself until I fell asleep in a chair with a cigarette. The whole house went up. I lost it all. I knew smoking was expensive, but I never thought it would cost me everything.
The human heart. Even at its strongest, it's a fragile muscle. Chest and arm pain, shortness of breath, are signs of a heart under attack. But 3 numbers can save a life. Dial 911 at the first sign of a heart attack. Quick response from medical experts can save your life.
I was 45 and it happened to me, a heart attack.
Dialing 911 saved Ryan's life. Now he's here and he's healthy.
This message sponsored by Mission Lifeline Montana.
Good morning and welcome to Aging Horizons, brought to you by the Department of Public Health and Human Services. I'm your host, Kimmy Everman, and today we're going to have a discussion about dementia and Alzheimer's. You know, I think a lot of times we think that Alzheimer's is everything about dementia, and there's really so many pieces to the puzzle that we want to have so that we can be proactive, so that we can, if we do think that this is coming into our lives for ourselves, a family member, a friend, we can act proactively and get some resources and some good information. Today we have with us a couple of, just as I said, super guests. We have Kayla M. And Kayla, you're the Community Engagement Manager for the Alzheimer's Association of Montana. Welcome. And then we also have Melanie Williams, who is a Community Engagement Manager as well for the Alzheimer's Association of Montana. Welcome to you both. And Melanie, let's start with you. For one thing, before we move on, let's just talk a little bit about our work together. My office is also involved with a great grant or project that we're working on with you all. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yes. We're grateful to be a part of that grant. It's the Acl Grant.
Which is the administration, on community living.
Sorry, yes, we get used to our acronyms. We also work with the Montana State Alzheimer's and Dementia Work Group. We work with DPHHS, the Office on Aging, Montana Area Agencies of Aging, and like you said, we partner with the ACL grant, or the Administration for Community Living grant, which helps us move our mission forward as well.
Well, it takes a village. We say that all the time, and you need so many folks coming together with their different talents and their resources to work on something as big as this. And that's, before we go on, because today we're going to talk about communication and dementia, but Melanie, can you just talk about, dementia is sort of an umbrella, correct, of all kinds of other types of situations?
Exactly. Dementia is the umbrella term. Alzheimer's happens to be one form of dementia. It's the most common type. So that's why people often just refer generically to any dementia as Alzheimer's. But there are so many different types of dementia, and they can manifest themselves very differently in different people as well.
Sure. So that's a beautiful segue into what we want to talk about today, Melanie, which is, communication takes a hit when you're starting to suffer from dementia. What are some of the changes that you might see in a loved one who's starting to deal with this?
Great, yeah. So we often think of memory as the number one symptom that we see in people that have dementia, but actually language and communication is also a big one. And we need to remember that communication is more than just what we say. It's also our nonverbal actions, it's our facial expressions. And so as they start to progress in the disease, they'll pick up on any number of those forms of communication. But what we might notice in them is they lose track of words. They have a hard time finding words. In normal aging, we all struggle to find words once in a while, but this just becomes more apparent. It becomes more of a regular thing that they can't find the word. We also notice that they might start a sentence and then they can't remember what they were saying, and the rest of the sentence is completely gone. They maybe can describe something very well. They can describe a toaster or they can describe a lawnmower, but they can't think of the word to talk about it. So those are a few of the changes we might notice in the early stages.
And in those early stages, Melanie, what are some great ways for us to learn new communication skills for these folks, or
Absolutely.
with these folks?
Yeah. Number one is probably patience. Try not to finish their sentences for them. Just try to be patient and listen to them. Maybe ask them if they'd like you to help provide the word for them if they can't think of it, or just go with it when you know what they're talking about. Just say, oh yeah, a toaster, and continue with your conversation. Be gentle, have a kind face. There was one other thought I had. Speaking of losing thoughts.
Yeah, it happens to me, yeah.
Happens to all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, I know what it was. And just try to say one direction or one statement at a time. Don't bombard them with multiple ideas or thoughts or conversations. With the holidays coming up too, it might be easy to get several conversations going on around the table, and that's a little hard for them to follow. So if we could keep the conversations more straightforward at the dining room table to include them, make sure that they feel that they're part of the conversation.
Yeah. And I really like what you've said, Melanie, about all of the nonverbal that we don't even think about. All the times that we touch someone or meet their face and speak with them closely and stuff, it's all very, very important to continue those types of things with this person who we love probably very much. Mm-hmm. One thing that I'd like to ask you in the last just minute here we have is, what about, how do you connect in those late stages? Because the late stages seem pretty difficult.
They are, absolutely. And that's when we really need to tune into those other senses. Music is usually a very powerful way to communicate, playing their favorite music. It will probably be from earlier in their lifetime, the 20s or 30s or 50s, whenever they were born. And then smells, maybe they enjoyed baking or cooking. And so baking something that they enjoyed or cooking something they enjoyed, and just creating an environment that brings all of those together in a way that makes them feel comfortable and makes them feel that they're included and part of the conversation and part of what's going on.
Right. And I think, folks, let's remember that these are folks that have lived in our communities for years. They've had great productive lives, families, etc., and they need our help. So we need to come together to stamp out this terrible illness and really support the folks in our communities in Montana who are suffering with these dementia type illnesses. We have a whole lot more to talk about, behaviors, etc. Come back, please.
Respite. It's okay to need it. It's okay to want it. Will you provide it?
The hard part about having outside help is that there's not a lot of people out there who can do that kind of work. We've been very fortunate that our Bonnie has been with us for 7 years. I don't know what I'd do without her. I need her in our lives. She's our second mother. And I can't help but think of her that way.
To find out how to change lives, including your own, call 800-224-6034 or visit respite.mt.gov.
Did you just text me?
I didn't want to disturb you if you were sleeping.
Sleeping? I'm sitting right next to you, silly.
There you are. Hey, I found a couple of Medicare helping programs online that I think we ought to look into.
It says if we qualify, we can get help paying for our prescription drugs. Oh, and there's a program that can help pay our Part B premium.
To learn more about extra help and Medicare savings programs, call your local SHIP counselor today.
Maybe I better text him.
I have so many questions about power of attorney. Well, some powers of attorney are for finances and others are for healthcare decisions.
A power of attorney designates an agent who would make decisions on your behalf.
While making a power of attorney, you have the ability to control your agent's power.
You also have the ability to decide when that POA would take effect.
Wait, am I giving away all my rights? Power of attorney isn't a license to make any decision for you, just those that you've specified.
Your agent should be somebody that's working in your best interest, but it should also be somebody that you would trust.
What if they try to abuse their power?
Protective measures like third-party accounting, secondary signatures, defined spending and gifting limits can help protect against financial exploitation. An agent's powers can always be limited by a customized power of attorney, and they can be revoked by you or the court if the power of attorney is abused.
So carefully drafted estate planning documents can help ensure that your finances are monitored, but not abused.
If you or someone you know is being exploited, please report to Aging Services Bureau at 844-277-9300 or the Legal Service Developer at 1-800-332-2272. This message sponsored by the DPHHS Aging Service Bureau.
Hi folks, welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about dementia today with a couple of great guests from the Alzheimer's Association of Montana. First, we have Melanie Williams. Melanie, you're a community engagement manager. And we also have Kayla M., another one of your community engagement managers. Kayla, let's just talk a little bit about some of those dementia-related behaviors that people might see, because these are things that are probably going to be big changes in people's lives.
Yeah, a lot of people think it's all just memory and recall, but there's a lot of other ways that we can see some of these changes and some cognitive changes kind of coming to the surface. And so one is maybe a restlessness. Maybe they're not sleeping as well. So some sleep behavior changes, along with some personality changes, with maybe easier to become agitated, and that may come out in how they're communicating, or just getting frustrated really easily. And I think some of the more scary symptoms are if they're having any hallucinations, maybe seeing or hearing things that you know aren't there, and some delusions as well. So just their thinking patterns have really changed are some other ways that we can see this. One situation I knew about one time was a person with a dementia that got very, very agitated at 4 o'clock every day. And they realized that it was, and this is where that patience comes in, I think. The family realized it had something to do with the outside traffic coming home from work at 4 o'clock to 4:30 in the afternoon that really triggered something in this lady, and she hated that time. But they had to do some sort of searching to figure out what was causing her all of that, anxiety and distress. Yeah, that's very common. And so we really want to look at ways that we can create a really good, calm environment if possible. And a lot of that, like you said, is what's triggering them. What's something that is just really hard for them to deal with every day. And the overstimulation, you think of a lot of noise, a lot of sound, if the lighting's off, that can really trigger someone to become agitated, because they're just not able to kind of cope maybe how they used to and process it. And so there's lots of ways that maybe we can look at the environment that they're in, the situation, to help control for that. And I think some other ways with sound, it's great when you get to know your loved one that well and can control for that. And 4 p.m., that's a really that ends up being a long day, especially if they wake early. So how can you make sure they stay rested, not overfilling your day so that they're just really exhausted and way too much happening. So keeping a light schedule, being flexible, with the different things that can happen, and rituals can be really helpful. That way they don't get caught off guard. And
explain that, Kayla. That's interesting. What is a ritual in this regard?
Sure. So I think anything that we do that's expected, it's a normal part of our routine, right? We build routines every day. We get up, we make our coffee. That's the first thing I do, I know. And then maybe start getting ready and cleaning up, or watching the morning news and that sort of thing. So what are the ways that we build a schedule with our loved one who has some cognitive changes so that they know what to expect, and not too many surprises, and that way they can process everything.
And so when you say not too many surprises, Kayla, does that go along with that calm environment and really creating a tranquil space for that person?
Yeah. So, you even talk about when you're traveling. I think that, you think of how many different things you have to deal with when you're traveling. Your living environment changes, the people you're around changes. So how do you have this calm environment that are filled with things that bring them joy, that are consistent? And I know Melanie talked about that too, about family members that they can talk to, that they enjoy talking to, activities that they find enjoyable. It's really important to stay active as well. That can help with agitation and not getting restless, as we all know. So, lots of different things. The music Melanie mentioned as well, different things that can help bring some calm and some peace into their everyday. Yeah.
And also, I think it's really important. I loved what you said about patience, Kayla, or Melanie, that was just, it's patience and patience and patience and patience. Is there anything else strategy-wise that we should be thinking about for those kinds of tranquil environments? And what if you're a carer who is at rope's end because the agitation cannot be handled?
Yeah, so that's a lot of great topics. I think, managing expectations is another way to kind of talk about patience, is how to manage that. But giving your caregivers a break and finding some other people in the family that connect with this person so that they can have new people but people that are familiar, and help with that patience factor and being able to support that person every day.
Right. And folks, again, times fly so quickly when we're on this show talking about such great topics. But it's so important that carers do reach out. And we're going to talk about some resources when we come back that will help you as a caregiver cope and navigate through a very difficult time. It is never easy to see a loved one losing their capabilities or their language or their personality. And if you just reach out, you might find some resources that are going to really turn your life around and turn the life around of that person that you're caring for. We have so much more to talk about with a couple of great folks from the Alzheimer's Association. So stay with us.
I think the most pleasant surprise when we turned 65 and signed up for Medicare Part B was finding out about our Welcome to Medicare preventive visit.
It was free, and it gave us the opportunity to visit with our doctors and establish a plan for our health going forward.
They reviewed our medical history, measured our height, weight, blood pressure, and counseled us on other risk factors.
To learn more about Medicare's free or low-cost preventive and wellness benefits, call your local SHIP counselor at 800-551-3191. I mentioned it's free, right?
Twice.
Elder abuse is a growing problem, and it's happening right here in our Montana communities. At least 1 in 10 older adults are victims of physical or emotional abuse, financial exploitation, or neglect. To get help or report elder abuse, call your local area agency on aging or Adult Protective Services at 1-844-277-9300.
I was the last guy you'd expect to get diabetes. I was a competitive runner and I always took care of myself. So when I was diagnosed, it kind of threw me. But it's really encouraging to know I'm not alone with it. There are a lot of other people going through the same things as I am. It takes some effort. You have to keep after it. Exercise, meds, and diet are the key. But there are a lot of folks who want me to succeed. Diabetes is not the end of the world. With effort and attitude, you can have a normal life.
When I first got here, I was struggling. No money, sleeping on the living room floor of a friend's apartment.
Diana Johnson, Energy Share Coordinator.
I know what it's like to need a hand. Now that I work with Energy Share, I help people pay their winter heating bills. I don't care if you're a veteran, a senior citizen, have a family, or are single. Energy Share is here to help.
If you need help paying your power bills, call or visit Energy Share, helping Montana families get through the winter since 1984.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to Aging Horizons. We're here talking about dementia and other related illnesses today with a couple of folks from the Alzheimer's Association of Montana. We have Kayla M. and we have Melanie Williams, and both are community engagement managers or specialists. Great to have you both here today. Melanie, let's just start with you for just a sec. You kind of wanted to have a little follow-up about something that Kayla was mentioning to us. Can you give us that?
Yeah. One thing, Kayla was talking about how easy it is for people living with this disease to become agitated. And one thing that will really spur that on is to try to correct them or remind them of things that they don't remember or can't recall. So it's very important that we enter their reality and that we understand where they're living and what time period they're living in, and just enter that point in time with them and go with them on that journey, because they honestly can't recall. When we say remember, it's 2021 or remember this, remember that, they can't. So it's always best to enter their reality.
And I think it's really, for myself, it's human nature to say, oh, you remember that, right? Without thinking before I say it. So great words of wisdom, Melanie, thank you. So Kayla, let's talk a little bit about the resources out there, because we need resources for the individuals that are suffering from dementia, but we also need resources for their families and their carers. Can you talk a bit about what's available?
Yeah, and a lot of those resources overlap, and I think our website's a great place to start, the alz.org, that has a ton of education, information, tips, how to approach things, communication strategies, and just educating about the stages of each diagnosis. And if that's a lot to go through, then our helpline is always really easy. That's our 24/7-hour helpline that's available with master's level social workers, and it's ran nationally. And so literally any time of day you can call, get support, whether it's caregiver and family or the loved one living with a diagnosis. And of course, reaching out to your doctor and seeing, do they have any case management services. We have lots of early stage programs through the association as well, which the helpline can help direct you to, and reaching out to any counseling and support groups. Really being able to connect with others that are going through the same thing can be really powerful.
Right. And I also want to give a plug to our area agencies on aging, because people can enter your services or your information that way as well. We're going to put their number up on the screen, and you can get one call in to get the information that you'll need. You'll get where you need to go. And that hotline, that's been around for a few years now, and I've always heard such great things about it. It's really, really good to have that in place. And also, I guess I just want to say again, and I know you agree, both of you, if you're a carer, reach out for whatever support. And the hotline's great for that, right, Kayla?
Yeah, the helpline is such a great resource. Again, it can be 3 a.m. or 11 p.m., whatever time, you're going to get that support and resources that you need.
Well, and if they're like me, a lot of times I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning thinking, and that would be a perfect time to go have a conversation with someone if that was what you wanted to do. So great resources. Now, Melanie, I guess, and certainly, Kayla, jump in if you have anything that you want to add, but you guys always bring such great hope to the show. And Melanie, I'd like you to just talk a little bit about that. And the fact that this doesn't have to be a death sentence for the rest of our lives.
Right, absolutely. I know when I started this journey with my mom, I really felt like I was on an island. And then when I found the Alzheimer's Association, I realized there's this huge community ready to support. I'm ready to be there for you when you need it. And then the number of volunteers in our state that step up and say, yes, I want to be a part of this mission. I want to volunteer. I want to get involved. It's just humbling every day. We now have several programs that are starting in the state. As Kayla referred to them, our early stage programs for those living with the disease and their caregivers in our art museums. And it's just been a fantastic time for people to come together, both the caregivers and the person living with the disease, and enjoy something together without the disease becoming the focus. In fact, the disease is rarely, if ever, talked about. It's a time they enjoy art. And again, that's one of those communication pieces that they can communicate through art. Also, with all the research going on right now, hearing what our scientists and our doctors are doing as part of our med team is very humbling as well. The research on the new drug aducanumab is very progressive. There's a lot of money being put into this mission, this cause, into finding a treatment for this disease. There are some things that you can take right now just to help regulate. It will help regulate some of the symptoms. There's no way to treat it as of yet, but there are so many resources available for those living with it and their caregivers just to bring quality of life, because that's really what it's about at this point. It's a journey of quality of life and making the most of each stage.
Oh, absolutely. Beautifully said, Melanie. Thank you. We have just a minute left. Kayla, what would you say brings you joy and hope in this work?
I think kind of related to Melanie said is just, we hear a lot of feedback about, I felt so alone at the beginning of this diagnosis or going through this journey, and knowing that programs like this, the Acl Grant, the other partnerships that we have allow us to be here and do this work, get the information out there so that people don't have to feel alone. Right. Knowing how much peace and comfort and support that can bring a person living with this disease and their family. It's that just makes all this work worth it, and so appreciative.
And again, beautifully said. You're both great. It's wonderful to have you here today. Thank you for sharing all this great information and all the hope that you always bring. We really appreciate it. Hope you'll come back again soon and be with us. Folks, dementia does not have to be a death sentence. Reach out. Get some support. You or the person with dementia. For Aging Horizons, I'm Kimmy Everman, and I hope you learned a lot today.
Special thanks to the Department of Public Health and Human Services for their continued support. Hosts on Aging Horizons are program specialists at the Montana Office on Aging. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions. For more information about Aging Horizons, call the Department of Public Health and Human Services toll-free at 800-332-2272.